All right, guys. In our second video, I'm going to recap all of the steps that we should take to solve any equation in the whole entire world. Now, you're not going to do every step on every equation, but this is kind of the order that you should do. Little mental checklist. And then we'll do one more super problem before we finish our homework for tonight. The first thing you should do when you're solving an equation is you should check and see if there are any parentheses. Whenever you see parentheses in a problem, your first step must be to distribute those parentheses out so that they're not there anymore. Okay, so step one, if there's parentheses, distribute. If you look at the problem and there's no parentheses, then you can skip step one and go to step two. For step two, what you should do is you should look at just one side of the equation at a time. And that should be pretty easy because we drew a red line down the middle. So you're going to focus on just the left-hand side. And if there's any like terms on the left-hand side, combine them together exactly how they are. Then take a look at just the right-hand side. And if there are any like terms on just the right-hand side, combine them together. So we're combining like terms on each individual side. If you look at both sides and there's no like terms, then you skip step two and you move on to step three. Step three is if you see that there is a variable on both sides of the equal sign, so there's a letter on the left and a letter on the right, then you want to move the variables to the same side. It doesn't matter which side you move them to, just move them both so they're on the same side. Now, this is different than combining like terms. Combining like terms, they're already on the same side and you're just smushing them together. When you have to move one from one side to the other side, you have to add or subtract it. You have to do the inverse operation. So make sure that those are done as two separate steps. At this point in time, you should be to a two-step problem. And in a two-step problem, we do our adding and subtracting first, and then we do our multiplying and dividing second. And at this point in time, you should be done with the problem. So these are the 5 steps that you might need to do in a problem. At most, you'll have to do 5 steps. And then it's possible that you might have to do less steps if the problem does not have these 5 things happening in it. But let's do one problem that has all 5 things just to make sure that we know what we're doing. Just as we've been doing this whole time, I'm going to start by drawing my red line. And I'm going to go through my 5 steps. All right, so step number 1 is we need to distribute if we see parentheses. And I see parentheses. So I'm going to distribute that 4. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. And I can go ahead and just write minus 20. And then 4 times 3x is 12x. That's step number 1. Step number 2. I'm going to look at each individual side, and if I see any like terms, I'm going to combine them together. So again, remember that I'm focusing on just one side at a time. So right now I'm looking at just the left-hand side. And on the left-hand side of the problem, I do see a 5x and a 12x, and those are both the letter x. So I can combine them together exactly how they look. Now, I'm not combining that with the x on the other side because it's past that red line. So I'm going to combine together a 5 plus a 12. And that makes 17. And notice that everything else was the same. Step 2. Step number 3, if I see variables on different sides of that red line that I drew, I'm supposed to move one of them over to combine it with the other one so that there's only one letter x. And I do see 2 letter x's. I've got a 17x and I've got a minus x. So I'm going to choose, I like to choose the smaller number. I'm going to choose the minus x and I'm going to move it over so that it's with the 17x. Now, since these are on different sides, I can't just smush them together how they are. I have to do the inverse operation. So that means that I'm going to be adding the x because it's once on the left and once on the right. In the previous step, it was both on the left, so I don't do an inverse. You want to be really careful about that. All right. Now I'm at my two-step problem. I'm going to start by moving my adding and subtracting. So I'm going to add 20 to the other side. And I'm going to finish up with my multiplying and dividing. So I'm going to divide by 18. Now 21 is not divisible by 18, and I do not want to write a decimal. So I'm going to simplify my fraction. Remember that Delta Math and Mrs. Gallagher, we both like simplified improper fractions. Both of these numbers are divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide these both by 3. And that should give me my final answer, which is 7/6. Okay, so this is as intense as a problem can get. It was 5 full steps of work. Not every problem will have 5 steps of work, but you should go through and check and see, which of the 5 steps you need to do. And make sure that you're doing them in the right order so you get the right answer. This concludes our second video.